Welcome back, everyone. As usual, we are two dudes talking 80s. I'm John. That's my partner in crime, Lewis.
Hello.
And before we get into this week's topic, we've been off for a little bit. I want to do a little quick recap. You were recently out here. We had a late celebration for your birthday. I think it's safe to say that the highlight of your late celebration out in Los Angeles was seeing Soto Beeler once again, second year in a row for you, third year in a row for me. Anything you want to reminisce about or tell people about your birthday celebration out here?
That was definitely one of the highlights. Always great seeing those guys perform. They always bring it, and it's like you had mentioned. It's a comedy show as much as it is a musical act. Also dug the comedy show that we went to, and
Yeah.
where we saw Sebastian, who's headlining, and a few other really good comedians. So yeah, that was a blast.
Good, good. Yeah, it's funny. I Jason Beeler, sometimes as you follow him on Facebook, every now and then he'll do live Q&A go. I asked him a question. I said, "What other amazing drummer are you going to have come out and play with you so they can play a box?" And he laughed. He said, you never know." So if you get a chance, Beeler Soto, definitely check him out. But getting back to the topic at hand, and I apologize, I was in a rush and I realized I'm wearing a 90s movie shirt. But I guess if you think about it, it's a 90s movie based on the 70s, divide on we're in the 80s. Okay, that's how I'm gonna justify it that way.
It averages it out.
It's pretty weak, but hey, what are you gonna do? I don't think Prince became a symbol to the '90s until the '90s either. So I don't know that you save yourself.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think he took that on in the 90s.
All right. So anyway, today's episode, we're actually going to talk about the 1985, and I call it a classic, Vision Quest. And for whatever reason, this movie, you think about the 80s and you think about the Rocky sequels, you think about Karate Kid. Vision Quest doesn't get that kind of love, and I think it should. And the interesting thing is, again, I've been a huge fan of Vision Quest for many, many years. Um, but you had never seen it until you decided finally to do this episode. So we haven't talked about it. I'm dying to know what your impression of Vision Quest was.
It's funny that you mentioned some of those, other hard hitters like Karate Kid and can't remember what the other one was
The
because
Rocky sequels.
they called out two in the preview to the movie, and one of them was Karate Kid. It said if you like Karate Kid, and I want to say it was Top Gun, but it was said they compared it to those. They said you'll also really like Vision Quest, and to get to answering your question directly, I thought it was pretty good. I'd give it a solid eight and a half out of 10. I found it very enjoyable. It was very realistic. I related to some of the wrestling stuff because I remember in PE in high school they would actually have us do wrestling moves and whatnot, and um, they would pin me against Dana Fong. I don't know if you remember Dana Fong, but yeah, he was probably the only one in the class that was weaker than I was.
All right.
So he's the only one that I could win against. But anyway, really enjoyable movie. I thought the actors were great. They play their parts just super well. Carla, Linda
No.
Fiorentino, is it? Um, Played her part just amazingly well. So I really liked it.
So for those of you that haven't seen it, and God, I hope maybe if we get one person to see this movie from watching this after we tell everything about the damn movie, it's basically a story about Loudon Swain, who decides that he was a successful wrestler at his high school at Thompson High. He decides that he wants to go down in weight and fight a guy named Shoot, and Shoot is supposedly this unbeatable monster wrestler. But he's determined that that's his goal. Actually, I think he was going down two weight classes to fight Shoot. While he's, doing this to get ready and prepared through some sequences of events, he ends up him and his father, the mother's not in the picture, and they don't really discuss it too much. Why, other than that there was another man involved. They come to get Carla, who's kind of stranded in Washington, on her way to California to be an artist. San Francisco, heads up, San Francisco. Um, and so she's staying with the family. She's considered the older woman, and Loudon's a virgin, really wants to have sex with her and all that, and be with her. And so eventually, things happen, and it's really the focus. I mean, it's kind of a two-pronged thing, right? The focus is on his relationship with Carla, feeling like he's growing up, and also his relationship, or his adversarial relationship, with this wrestler Shoot, and what he believes is a vision quest, or is told it's a vision quest, to wrestle Shoot, and that's his goal, is to defeat him. So, um, one of the things that really, really stood out about this movie for me is the soundtrack. The soundtrack is, again, this movie's overlooked. The movie's fantastic. The soundtrack to this movie is absolutely amazing. You have Journey, you have Madonna, you have Dio, you have Red Rider with Lunatic Fringe, which is prominent in the movie. Um, Got to ask you about the soundtrack. Did any particular song just really hit you in a certain way?
Well, I'm a big fan of Dio, and the song that they featured for Dio, I wasn't super enthused with. It's not one of my favorites, but it was neat, even though I knew that it was coming. I didn't know where it was coming, and it's like, oh wait, I recognize that. Oh, so that was really cool. I Man, I can't name one song. I mean, there were so many great tunes in there. It really makes me want to go out and look and see if I can get a copy of the soundtrack. Just top notch soundtrack.
Yeah. Uh, for Dio, it was Hungry for Heaven, right?
It was.
Okay. Yeah, I geeked out to Journey is Only the Young, because that's a song that's not really played very often, so it's not played out. And it's probably my favorite Journey song. I love that song, and it gets you hyped. Especially, seeing Loudon running across the bridge in Spokane, Washington, which I have been to Spokane, Washington. Shout out to my sister who lives there, and lots of places in the area that were filmed apparently still exist too. So next time I'm in Spokane visiting my sister, I might have to sneak out and do my little vision quest. You know, check out all the locations. One of the things about this movie is this relationship he has with Carla, and wanting to be with her and everything else. And it's funny because Linda Fiorentino, I guess this was her first audition right out of drama school.
Wow.
She nailed it, obviously, because she was in the part. Um, what do you think? I mean, here's the thing: a lot of these '80s movies and stuff, people look back on with these lenses of how we are today as a society, which is, a lot different than how we were in the '80s. So, you having seen it more recently, um, I look back at it, and there are some things that Loudon did, obviously completely inappropriate. But I also look back on it knowing the kid, he was like a teenager in the '80s, and that probably wasn't off from the way most of the teenagers in the '80s behaved. What were your thoughts?
The parts that stand out to me, and I don't know if these are the parts that you're thinking of, was where he was caught smelling her underwear.
Yeah, sniffing her panties.
Yeah, sniffing her panties. I thought that was interesting. Yeah, that definitely caught my attention. And the part where he almost like starts to force himself on her, I thought that was that caught me a little off guard, I guess. And yeah, so those are the two things that I remember that I sort of stepped back. And, oh, whoa, that wouldn't fly so well in today's culture.
No, well, I don't know about the sniffing the panties, but it's the way he forced himself. But again, I thought the way they dealt with it, seemed accurate, right? Especially for that time Whereas, like, hey, she basically hits him. She defends herself. He stops. And she says, the great thing about being a kid is, you can be stupid and not get your face, totally punched in. So I thought it was dealt with and it seemed right. It was right for the time. I'm not oblivious to thinking that never happens in this day and age. But it's probably, so I thought for that character, for that time frame, it's not something where I feel like we need to revisit it and abolish the movie as so many people are like, oh, this is controversial. I felt like it was dealt with.
Right.
I gotta ask you about one of the characters who names it the Vision Quest is oh God, I don't know exactly how to pronounce it. The actor's name is Michael Schofling, I think. Is the character. What who plays Cooch? Great character name there. Did you recognize the guy?
He looked familiar. I couldn't quite place him. God, yeah, I was confusing him with one of another actor whose name is escaping me right now, and it's not Rob Lowe. Um, oh man, he was in The Outsiders. But anyway, yeah, he was familiar to me. I didn't know who it was though.
So he looked a lot different in this movie because he had the mohawk and everything else. But he actually was in 16 Candles. That's Jake Ryan.
Oh wow.
Yeah, the pretty boy of 16 Candles is the Indian, wrestler Cooch in this one.
Yeah, what I had no clue.
Yeah, the interesting thing is, I guess he just didn't like the whole Hollywood thing or whatever. Um, and he actually gave up Hollywood, and I heard like he's a furniture maker. Supposedly, he's been a furniture maker for a long time and makes really nice stuff, but completely different little lifestyle there. So a little bit of trivia on Cooch. And again, he's the one that, he believes he's an Indian, or you find out later differently, but he believes he's Indian and that he believes what Loudon, Swain, the Matthew Modine's character is on a vision quest. His fight with Shoot. So, what did you think of Shoot when you first saw him? The first time we're introduced to him was seeing that workout was insane.
I was a little underwhelmed, to be honest, man. I was
Really?
expecting this like completely burly, huge dude, and he was definitely in really good shape. I didn't see him in that better of shape than Loudon, so I was really expecting him to be more of a hurdle than how I interpreted the his physique.
It's interesting because Frank Jasper, the actor who played Shoot, he was a real wrestler.
Wow.
And I guess they reshot some of the stuff with him where by the time they were ready to do the reshoots, he had gone up to 200 pounds.
Wow.
Like, yeah, so he was probably closer to what you expected. But because he was supposed to be lower weight classes and Loudon's supposed to be, trying to lose all this weight, like, he instead of eating dinner, he drinks a glass of water, like he did, with Carla and his father.
Right.
So it's a little crazy, but yeah. So he had to, like a wrestler, Frank Jasper had to drop that weight yet again.
Damn, man. I didn't know that either.
Yeah. So very impressive. Um, One of the scenes in the movie is Loudon goes to goes into a bar, discovers that Carla's already present, and they have a dance. And I'll be damned if the singer performing that night didn't look a little like somebody I've seen before. Hmm. Yeah, I wonder whatever happened to that person.
Oh, I'm sure she didn't get anywhere in life.
You know, no, nowhere.
No, no, that dive bar performer, no, didn't get
Yeah,
anywhere in life.
it's a shame because it looked like she had some potential.
What I thought was really interesting, I've got to go back and do more research on this, and I wish I had before we started recording. So, of course, we're talking about Madonna. For
Yeah,
those who don't know, it was Madonna that was performing in the bar, and she sang "Crazy for You," but I don't think that's the version that you hear on the radio because it didn't have all of the background vocals and stuff. It sounded rawer, what
yeah.
you would actually hear in a bar, and I thought that was really, really cool.
So when this movie was made, she really wasn't famous yet. So, she would probably, it was one of those things where we cast her, we're using her song, but I don't think they had any idea that Madonna would become Madonna and
Right.
such a bigger, role in pop culture and in music and everything else. But, looking back on it, it's kind of cool. I mean, seeing some of her movies, that's where she should have stopped. Being the singer in the dive bar, and she could have saved us from some really, really bad movies. But yeah, so you get to see Madonna at an early age. Um, did you have a particular favorite character in this movie?
I really liked Carla. I liked her a lot because how she acted her part. She made it seem like she was 21, where Loudon was 18, and I sort of tripped on the fact that that's not a huge age gap, but at that age it is, right? You've got somebody that can go out to bars and drink and stuff, and you've got this other person that's just becoming an adult, a legal adult. I thought she played the part just extremely, extremely well. It really drove that home to me through the whole movie, and she was probably my favorite.
Yeah, it's funny because I don't know what the laws were in Washington back then. I remember being able to drink in Hawaii when I was 18 because it was such a military, state, that you could drink. When I graduated from high school, when I went to, I had my graduation present was a trip to Hawaii. When I was 18, I could actually go to bars and drink. So I don't know in the early 80s, this came out what, 85, a year before I graduated and you graduated. I don't know if the laws were any different in Washington. Maybe you could have been drinking at 18. I don't know. But he's not a big character and crap, I hope I didn't even write down his name. Oh, Elmo, the coworker that works with
Ah,
him, the cook at the hotel. There was something about Elmo that I just thought was really a really important character, even though he's not that much in the movie. He seemed really important to me in terms of being in Loudon's life and being kind of the voice of reason. And probably one of my favorite scenes is when Loudon goes to Elmo's apartment and he's like, "Hey, I thought something was wrong. You didn't show up for work." And he's getting dressed. He's like, "I'm going to your match." And he tells us this beautiful, beautiful story that seemed very different from who the character was, but kind of let you in a little bit to, who he was as a person. When he tells a story about watching Pele on TV and seeing Pele do this crazy kick, and even though he doesn't know anything about soccer, that he actually it drove it was so moving it moved him to tears. And because as he says, the fact that I'm part of the human race along with this guy and somebody from the human race can do something so amazing, it got to me. And that's what, why he took the night off to go see Loudon wrestle, because that was the first time he'd ever seen Loudon wrestle. So that really moved me. So there was something about Elmo that every time he came on, like when they're arm wrestling or he's making him a burger and all that stuff. Something about that character really did something for me. So that's like sorry, that was like one of my favorite scenes. Did you have a particular scene that, really resonated with you?
Quite a few of them. I'm not sure that I could pick one. I do want to go back and comment on that though, uh, on what you were saying with the scene with Elmo. Very, very cool. Yeah, it definitely gave the character a little more depth and meaning. And I remember another line that he had said, and I think it was in that same scene that Loudon was saying, why are you taking the time off to just go watch something that's going to be over in 6 minutes? And he says, it's not the 6 minutes, it's what you do in the 6 minutes. And yeah, he was like Yoda or something, man. He was just the voice of wisdom. And so I thought that was really cool too. Another scene that I thought was really cool was when Loudon was in the gym and they were all working out doing something, and he like almost in a, not really a fit of rage, but I guess a burst of energy, climbs on the pegboard, right, where it seemed like that nobody was able to do that and climb to the top, and he just goes in this fit and climbs all the way to the top. And I thought that was really cool too. That sticks out in my head for whatever reason.
Did you ever try one of those?
I think I did. I got maybe up 2 pegs or something. I didn't get very far.
I don't remember our gym having that, so luckily I never tried. I'm sure I would have embarrassed myself completely. Um, but yeah, the other character I really liked, and I want to bring him up, Harold Sylvester as Mr. Tanneran, the English teacher, who's very important in Loudon's life as well, and you can see that he also views him as a very important part of his life and everything else. I thought there was a lot there with that relationship as well. Um, and I got to ask you, do you remember where you saw Harold Sylvester?
I don't.
He was one of Al Buddy's friends in Married with Children, part of No Man.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Now I, wow. It's
Yeah,
funny because I was looking at him going, he looks familiar, but nah, it can't be anybody that I know. But he looks familiar. Yeah, that's it.
it's funny too because it's not an '80s movie. I think it came out in like '78. There is a Gabe Kaplan movie called Fast Break, which the fact that that thing was rated PG, and I rewatched it, and you're just like, ooh, wow, we had a different world back then. That was PG, but he also I think his character was DC in that movie. But Harold Sylvester, I actually met the guy one time. A few years back, I went to a career day at one of the local schools within my division, and I was there to present to a couple classes for careers. And sure enough, Harold Sylvester was there, and talk. I didn't have a long conversation, just said hello, kind of thing. Seemed like a nice guy, but he was there to present as well, and I'm sure he was presenting to the kids that about a career in acting and things like that. So it's kind of neat to have that interaction, but I kind of wanted to hit him up on like Fast Break and Vision Quest. I just didn't really have the time.
That's pretty cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's been a little bit. So, um, I also so what was your thought process with the way Carla kind of ended their relationship? For those that haven't seen the movie, and we've ruined the whole thing, when eventually you could tell it was going to happen, Carla and Loudon do finally hook up. And of course, immediately after that, Loudon's like, "Yeah, I don't even know why I was doing this and trying to lose the weight and fight, wrestle, shoot." And Carla is trying to be the voice of reason, saying, "Wait a sec, don't let me be the reason you're not following through on this." And I think, because of that, she elected to leave, and she left, and without even really saying goodbye, at least initially you think that, say goodbye to Loudon. What do you think about it?
I thought it was very well done. I thought it was sort of classy because you're assuming that she's going to, leave and go to California and pursue her dream as being an artist, right? And that she's also wishing the same for him to go ahead and pursue his dream to fight, shoot, and do what he wants to do, and then get scholarships, go to college, yada yada yada. So I thought it was really well done, and I thought it was super cool that she was out in the audience watching, right? And presumably he didn't know. I thought that was really neat.
Well, you can't say presumably he didn't know because remember she visits him in the locker room. You just saw this movie. How the heck do you not remember that?
She visits him in the locker room before he wrestles, though.
But don't you think that she's gonna be
She could have split. She could have just taken off.
all right? All right, okay. You made your point. Anyway, I really enjoyed seeing her come back. Like I said, I mentioned, she goes in the locker room, she sees Loudon. He's getting ready for his big match with Shoot, and she kind of explains to him, now that her leaving put him back on track. Hey, I didn't want, you needed, this is something you needed to do. And I thought it was really cool when he goes, "Hey, Carla, I'd do it all again." And she looks back at him. She goes, "So would I," or something to that effect. And she goes, "Hey, Loudon, kick his ass." That was kind of the moment where it's like, okay, now boom, we go. Then of course you get the workout montage of him getting preparing for Shoot with the great, Red Rider, Lunatic Fringe behind him. Pretty amazing stuff.
Yeah, yeah, it was very well done building up to that, and yeah, it was a good movie. I really enjoyed it.
Oh, good. Well, I'm glad you finally saw it. Good, about time. You're way behind on this, but I think it's one of the best '80s movies there is. Actors, soundtracks, everything considered. Apparently, somebody's got a chainsaw now in the backyard. So, uh, anything you want to add before we call this?
A couple of things. So, his friend, and she didn't play a huge role in the movie, but she was in journalism with him, where he was going to write this article about the female clitoris.
I
I
like how you say the female clitoris as opposed to the male
the male
clitoris, which we're
clitoris.
all so familiar with. Yeah, apparently somebody needs to go back to Anatomy 101.
Oh man. Anyway, at the beginning, I was trying to place who it was, and I really wasn't able to place her until I actually looked it up, and it was Daphne Zuniga, who
Yeah,
appeared in many other things. So I thought that was really cool.
the sure
And
thing.
yes, yes, and
What's funny is like a year or two later, she was in a movie called Gross Anatomy where she was the love interest of Matthew Modine. So
interesting.
she upgraded from friend. She got out of the friend zone and was love interest.
So
I'm
anyway,
sorry,
I
I'm
thought,
still stuck on the female clitoris thing.
well, it's not an inaccurate statement.
It's like it's like saying, oh, the male penis, as opposed to it's just unnecessary verbiage for something we can automatically assume is going to be female. But that's okay. I like the clarification you made, and that's wonderful. Good job.
In this day and age, man, I'm being precise. All right.
All right, there you go. We'll get letters because
I've
I
got
dared to
tears in my
say,
eyes.
males don't have clitorises or something. Who knows?
Uh, and then the last one that I want to call out was that I did a double take, but I did end up recognizing him without looking up who he was Forrest Whitaker as Bulldozer.
How come Forrest Whitaker was like the go-to athlete in the '80s? He's a football player one time. He's a wrestler. So anyway, Good for Forrest. He kept it real. Liked him in Fast Times, liked him in this. Um, anyway, I got some things going on over here, so I think we're gonna cut this a little short. Lewis, brother, take us out.
Peace out, everybody.
Thank you, guys.